I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and let's say you don't want the highest of the high-end, that Galaxy Note 2 or that Galaxy S4 or that HTC One's just too much phone for you, your mom, or your dad. A great option on Verizon Wireless is the LG Lucid 2. This thing is available for free on contract and has some additional accessory goodies that you can buy, like wireless charging, not to mention a nice dual-core processor and a 4.3-inch display. What do I think of this device? Is it the best to get on the mid-range spectrum? Let's find out in the full video review of the LG Lucid 2, which starts right now. If the Galaxy S4 or Note 2 or HTC One, the price point's a little bit too rich for your budget, this is going to be a great device to consider, especially if you're on Verizon Wireless. This is the LG Lucid 2, and it packs some decent specifications despite having a free with 2-year agreement price tag. It has some great things, including wireless charging. If you buy the additional battery cover here, it's sold separately along with the wireless charging cover, or the cover I should say, and the battery thing, which is provided by LG. So special thanks to them for all these goodies. They sent us over the review unit, and they sent us over some goodies to toy around with here, including the extra battery charger and then the charging dock station here, which you have to have the original battery cover on the back in order to use that. But very cool here. Thanks to LG for the unit and for the goodies, and special thanks to our partners at Best Buy Mobile for giving us devices like this for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll get your email, your contacts, your web, all that good stuff set up. So when you walk out the door with your Lucid 2 or whatever smartphone you get, you'll walk out working. So let's take a look at the Lucid 2 here. Overall, a nice little smartphone. It's available for free, and specs wise, we're looking at a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU here, a 4.3-inch display, so display-wise, exactly the same size as the HTC First on AT&T, though it's not an HD display. It is a QHD display, resolution 540 by 960 pixels. On the back, you're toting a 5-megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording, a front-facing shooter as well for video calls, and then it's packing Android as well. Android 4.1.2, so you've got Jelly Bean out of the gate here, and then you have LG's user interface running atop Android 4.1. So Jelly Bean plus LG's user interface, and if you've watched my videos in the past, you know that I've talked a lot about LG's user interface and how mature it is in comparison to, let's say, Sense 5 or TouchWiz on the Galaxy S4 or the Note 2. It's made some significant improvements all around, and that continues over on the LG Lucid 2. We saw some great improvements from their devices at Mobile World Congress, and like I said, it's coming over into the US on their various carrier-branded devices. Battery-wise, you're looking at, I should say actually first RAM, you've got 1 gigabyte of RAM here, and then battery life is surprisingly decent, 2,460 milliamp hour battery in the back. So should be decent for a device this size, considering a smaller display that's not HD. Should be decent. We'll talk more about it in part 2. I don't want to spoil the fun in part 1 of the review, but design-wise, really a nice little phone here. You've got your volume rocker over on the left side, your power button on the right side, 3.5mm headphone jack up top, micro USB charging port at the bottom, all the usual goodies that you would expect on this device. And out of the box, all the Verizon bloatware that you would expect, and all the Verizon bloatware that you can just get your little heart set on. Things like Amazon apps, Amazon Kindle, you've got My Verizon Mobile, Mobile Hotspot, and then that looks to be, actually, I'm sorry, Verizon Tones, Visual Voicemail, VZ Navigator, VZ Security. I was like, is that all the Verizon bloatware? Nah, that's not all the Verizon bloatware. And then you see more. But, and I've actually been working with this device for a couple days. So I remembered VZ Navigator and, of course, Visual Voicemail, which is $2.99 per month. And I believe there's a free trial on this as well. Let me double check. I think there's like a 30-day. And I may be thinking of VZ Navigator. I apologize. They run different promotions, and I tend to forget which ones they have. Now, down here at the bottom, capacitive buttons, back, home, and then recent applications. But you have a physical menu button as well, which is particularly nice for a lot of people. Some people are frustrated, for example, with the HTC One, because it only has 2 buttons, and they each serve different purposes depending on what application you're in. There's no fixed menu button. It's all up the top of the application and blah, 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 blah. Nerd talk. But this one has a physical menu button, so it's nice to be able to have that down here, and it gets it out of the application itself. So using the HTC One as an example, when you're in Facebook, for example, you don't have that menu button, that on-screen menu button down at the bottom. You're maximizing all of your 4.3-inch display. Taking a look at messaging here, and Facebook's loading up, and I'm going to try to do this while the battery is still charged. We're at 13%. 4G LTE capabilities on Verizon, and Amber Alert as well, which has been going around in North Texas for about, a week now, actually just under a week. So you've got a 4.3-inch display here, and you've got LG's keyboard. LG's made some significant strides to their keyboard all around, Google Voice typing as well. And what I like about this device, 4.3-inch display, easy to pocket, easy to fit in the hand. You can travel all the way across the display and hold it in one hand, which is really a nice little feature there. So if you're somebody that's coming from an iPhone 5 or you want a decent spec device that's smaller, kind of like the iPhone 5, you don't want to deal with a 4.7 or 5-inch display, this is going to be a great option for you specifically if you're looking for that. So we'll say the quick brown fox jumped over. It's so hard not to go back and correct that. Lazy dog. Quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. And of course, portrait to landscape, all your transitions are nice and fast. And if the keyboard's a little bit too small for you in portrait, of course, you can shift it over into landscape mode. There's a third-party keyboard I download called Jelly Bean Android 4.2 keyboard. It's by John Tanmi, T-A-N-M-I, in Google Play. And then, of course, there's SwiftKey and all the different alternatives. Touch Pal I actually find particularly useful as well. So keyboard's pretty decent here, both here and in web browsing, which we'll jump to in just a second, but I want to skip over here and take a look at recent applications. You've got Task Manager down here in the bottom you can jump to pretty easily and take care of all your running applications, your storage, and more. And then you can go to Google Plus directly just by clicking Google Plus, and you can load it up right there. Now, combined with Verizon's 4G LTE network, which amongst all the carriers is by far the most developed in the United States, it guarantees download speeds of 5 to 12 megabits per second, upload speeds between 2 and 5 megabits per second. You should be pretty happy with the connectivity, and it's available in far more rural areas than Sprint, than AT&T, and T-Mobile as well. So let's load up PhoneDog.com, PhoneDog, and that was terrible. Hey, PhoneDog Aaron, PhoneDog.com. There I am. And of course, we're loading up right now on Verizon's 4G LTE network. So loading up, taking a look at the website here. Again, pinch to zoom for most basic tasks. This is going to be by far a decent device for that person that's browsing the web, sending a few messages. I'd recommend this to anybody. If you're somebody that's a power user, you're probably going to want to stick, obviously, to the HTC One, the Droid DNA, Galaxy S4, the Note 2, all the current high-end devices on the market. But overall, pinch to zoom, responsive as you would expect. I use Chrome on this device. So overall, Chrome is surprisingly functional, useful. You know I use it in my videos, and I find the browser to be particularly capable. Love the animations, and more like when I open a new tab, and I can scroll down between those tabs, and if I hit it fast enough, let's see if I can do it. Usually it'll flip the tabs. Oh well, not doing it right now. Anyway, Chrome right there, easy to use, very functional all the way around. Now, what I like about this device as well, LG's made significant strides in personalization, so it's proof that you don't have to spend $199 or $299 or $249 or whatever the case may be, depending on your carrier, for a high-end device if you just want personalization. A couple of my favorites on this device and LG's user interface in general, notice the edit button that pops up when I hit an icon like messaging, for example. I can come down here and change all these icons around if I want to and really make this device my own. If I want to do a C for camera, I can do that. If I want to change my contacts icon, I can come down here and change it to something else. Let's say a dictionary. And I can move that around. And of course, you can do all the usual things you'd expect. Change wallpaper, change the lock screen. And I like that it organizes your apps, your widgets, and your wallpapers down here. So I can scroll between my widgets, for example. I can scroll between my wallpapers and say, hey, you know what? Let's go to, let's find a really nice one. There we go. That's beautiful. Gorgeous. Totes adorbs, as they say. Presh. And then you can see there 7 home screens as well, speaking of customization in Android and then customization in LG's user interface. Notification bar looks like this, very similar to what you'd expect from Samsung up here with the shortcuts, but what I like about this, and this is something Samsung very recently implemented in their Android 4.1 and then on the Galaxy S4 that we saw internationally, that configuration as well. They've implemented where you can finally change these around. But what I like is you can move these around on LG. They've done this for some time. So obviously I travel all the time in airplane. So airplane mode for me would be a priority. I can move over sound profile, for example. I keep it on vibrate when I'm in meetings. Mobile data, that's kind of important. And then I'll go back here and take a look and you can see it customizes them, however, based on what I use the most. Now, likewise, you can come in here to more, for example, and I can get rid of a bunch of stuff. Also, let's say literally the only thing I use is airplane mode and power saver. So I can back out here. And you'll see when I go back to the notifications bar, I've got just 2 giant buttons. So you can really customize and make this your own. This is a Verizon device. Verizon strongly encourages you to use Wi-Fi on all of their Android devices. So there's a big obnoxious Wi-Fi button everywhere with the exception of the Motorola devices. And it's right here as well. Wi-Fi off, and it stays right up there in the top along with the brightness stuff. Over here, settings, and then of course mode change, which I like this a lot as well. I can go to starter mode also and take a look at this. If I'm doing this for somebody that's new to Android or even new to smartphones in general, I can put it on starter mode for a couple of weeks, get them accustomed to the device, and then bring them back over to the standard mode, which is nice. I can preview that as well. Take a look at the home screens, and then of course incoming calls, and then I'll go ahead and apply that actually so you can see what it looks like, because it is a surprisingly functional, and of course you've got home up here. Everything's just bigger and easier to use all the way around, and it gives you some customized icons to make it a little bit easier to operate for that first time Android user. And then of course we'll go up here as well, go back to settings and take a look, display, and then of course your home screen. I can change the font size, I've got my battery percentage indicator, and more. Stay tuned for part 2. We'll talk more about personalization, we'll cover quadrant standard speed tests on Verizon's 4G LTE network, wireless charging, and of course the camera. Stay tuned for part 2 on PhoneDog.com.